Hello, everyone. We are so excited to have you here today. My name is Emily, and I'll be introducing this event. Welcome to the Introduction to High School Entrepreneurship workshop hosted by the Clueless Robotics and We Impact. We Impact is a nonprofit organization that offers STEM educational events that empower students just like you to make an impact on your communities. But first, before we can jump into this exciting event, we have to establish some rules. First of all, because we have so many people on the call today, please make sure that your audio is muted so it doesn't get too hectic in here. Secondly, we would love questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat and we will respond to them as soon as possible. But if you don't have things to say that are related to the content, then please don't put it in the chat. And thirdly, we want this to be as immersive as an experience as possible. So we would love to have your video on so you could participate and answer questions. This event will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel. So conversely, if you don't want your name or face to be put on YouTube, you can go ahead and keep your camera off and change your Zoom name. So today, I'm first going to start by introducing the agenda for this event. Firstly, we'll talk about what is entrepreneurship. What does an entrepreneur do and what is the experience like? Secondly, we'll discuss summer programs and how to get in. Thirdly, competitions and school clubs. And last but most importantly, why you should become an entrepreneur and change maker. This event is led by two highly passionate, accomplished high school students, Michael and Jennifer. Michael Zhang is a junior at the Bishop School. He is the founder of Print for the Cure, an organization and platform he initiated in response to the pandemic that has united nearly 100 makers in donating over 25,000 units of PPE. He is a co-founder of Boxhobby, a startup providing new ways to try hobbies for seniors, and a program director at We Impact. He has always had a passion for robotics and technology and is skilled in 3D printing, CAD, mechanical engineering, and programming. Michael first dove into entrepreneurship to use his skills to make an impact on the world, whether that be designing a website and 3D printing PPE or teaching robotics concepts. Jennifer is a junior at Valley Christian High School. Her first introduction to entrepreneurship was through Deca, when her team qualified for ICDC in the Innovation Business Plan competition. At school, she is the leader of a team sending experiments to the International Space Station and started her own Physics Olympiad Club. Jennifer is also a LaunchX alumni and the co-CEO of Boxhobby. So with that, I'll hand it over to Michael and Jennifer, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.
All right. For some perspective, we'll start with some example high school entrepreneurs. Firstly, there's Benjamin Stern. He's actually the CEO of Nobo, which is a company that invented environmentally friendly shampoo balls and eliminated the plastic waste from shampoo bottles. And this is a really great example of a technology-based startup started by a high schooler. And you might have actually seen his startup on Shark Tank. And his company is now actually valued at a couple $1 million. And there's also Karina Popovich. She's the founder of Makers for COVID-19, which is another organization that started in March this year and has connected over 200 makers through Slack and donated over 80,000 pieces of PPE. And finally, we have Veronica Tang, who is the founder of All Girls STEM Society, which is a nonprofit holding monthly STEM workshops for younger girls. And this nonprofit has reached over 4,000 students across San Diego and over 250 schools. So those are just some great examples of other high school entrepreneurs who have been really successful in their ventures. Now, what really is entrepreneurship? Well, entrepreneurship is simply delivering value through products or services to customers. And oftentimes, entrepreneurs will act upon innovation. Like for Print for the Cure, at the time, there weren't many platforms that allowed typical makers to donate PPE to medical workers easily. And so Print for the Cure was an innovative idea in that way. And really for entrepreneurship, there are a wide variety of skills needed on a team. There's the builder, the person who builds the prototype or builds whatever product or service that you're offering. There's a brander, person who works on developing content, branding materials, and also marketing. There's also a business developer, which is somebody who works on the finances and the logistics of a company. And there's also a huge variety of companies that you could build. whether that be an educational nonprofit or a high-tech company. And so really anybody is able to get their hands on or get their hands into entrepreneurship. But what unites all entrepreneurships is probably a mindset. So we think that there's three really important things for an entrepreneur to have as their mindset. Firstly, there's a spirit of just do it. Oftentimes, there's not too much to lose. And sometimes you get amazing things out of engaging in these activities. And a great example is with Print for the Cure. When I started Print for the Cure and built the website, I actually had almost no web development experience. And I'd just be learning for a couple of months. And so jumping into Print for the Cure was kind of a big jump for me, and that really paid off. So the spirit of just do it can oftentimes be really beneficial. And there's also the spirit of all in or all out. This mindset to be the best can make you work a lot harder. And of course, having one successful company is a lot more impressive and a lot more impactful than having two mediocre attempts. And finally, it's important to be ready to leave your comfort zone as an entrepreneur. Building a company is a relatively difficult thing to do, and there's a lot of aspects of it. You might have to work with a team, reach out to strangers, build a product or service, and figure a lot of things out. And no matter what, you're probably going to be doing something that you're not entirely comfortable with. So to embrace that as an entrepreneur is really important. And before we get into the details, we're going to answer the main question, why entrepreneurship? Well, the big difference between entrepreneurship and really any other extracurricular is that entrepreneurs impact others. For example, if you're into robotics, you might be building robots for yourself. Once you get into entrepreneurship, you're building robots for customers. And what also being an entrepreneur demonstrates a lot of things. If you build a successful company, you're demonstrating a drive and work ethic to be successful. And being able to build a startup from the ground up demonstrates a tremendous ability to get something to work and to build something. And of course, being an entrepreneur, the fact is that you are impacting others, especially if you're starting a nonprofit or a startup that has a really meaningful purpose. Entrepreneur shows that you care about impacting your community. And finally, if you do attend reputable entrepreneurship summer programs to demonstrate that you're working hard and doing difficult things even during breaks. And we'll talk a little bit more about summer programs a little bit later. But no matter what your expertise is in, entrepreneurship might be the logical next step for you. So with that said, let's get into the details.
Hello, so there's a few different types of statuses that are more fit for high schoolers or for some of you middle schoolers to start. So one type of status for a company may be an LLC, which is a limited liability corporation. And for this status, the goal of is to make something, is to sell something and make money off of that. So some benefits of having the LLC status is you have protection from any suing or any debt, and it demonstrates how your company is legitimate through that status. So in the case of an LLC, your personal assets are separate from the company's assets, so it saves you from any potential debt that may occur. And so the second type is a nonprofit, and the goal of a nonprofit is to improve the lives of the people around you or of a specific group of people in a specific way. So benefits of having a nonprofit status is you get exemptions from tax and for the revenue that you generate, and it's much easier to receive grants from people because again, a nonprofit status shows that your company is legitimate. An alternative is a hack club bank. What that basically is you register under another nonprofit and they help you become a nonprofit yourself. So for this, you're legally tied to that other company, but you do get that nonprofit status. And there's a lot of these corporations that are willing to help students for free for your company to become a nonprofit. And the good thing about this is you don't have to deal with all of that paperwork that usually is involved with creating a nonprofit company. And the third type is just not having a legal status. And this is where we recommend most people to start, because having a status doesn't really make you an entrepreneur. It doesn't make your company more successful or less successful. So any type of company can have the status. You just start your own company, right? And the benefits of not having the status is that you don't have to file for any paperwork. And this paperwork often takes months It costs hundreds of dollars. And you can focus on what's important, and what you do with your company is the most important aspect.
With that said, what are the actual steps to building a company? So in the next few slides, we'll give a quick overview of the process. Of course, when you start a company, you want to start with an idea. And a common misconception is that there's always an aha moment. That's not always true. Ideation often takes time and effort in seeking inspiration from the problems and the companies around you. And also, implementing a common idea isn't necessarily bad. For example, We Impact isn't necessarily an extremely innovative nonprofit, but we still provide a lot of value to the people who attend these sessions using our expertise. And there are plenty of companies that work on an existing idea and simply add minor improvements and are still able to be quite successful. But what's most important about a company is that you are working on an idea that you really like, and that plays to your strengths. After all, if you're working on something that you don't really enjoy, there's a big likelihood that you'll lose motivation. That's much more likely to kill your company than to have an idea that's not as innovative. So the first step to building a company is to come up with that idea. Secondly, you want to build a team. And when we say team, we're not really talking about people who join a project and then leave after maybe a week, but rather people or partners who are really invested in the project. And what that means is that a good team is indeed quite hard to find. And as high schoolers or students, you often have school to commit to, as well as several other extracurriculars. And so building a company alone is really not practical. And having especially a partner who has a different set of skills as you and can cover for you when you're busy can be really valuable for a company. And I can say for Print for the Cure, some of the slowest times have been when I've had to work alone and I haven't had really a business partner to work with me. And so having a business partner can be really valuable. And finally, having a good team can be the most important factor in a venture's success. If your team falls apart, it's quite likely that your business will fall apart too. So having a great team that is consistent is really important. So once you have a great company, you've got a team who's willing to work with you. And what market? This can be face-to-face interviews, potential customers, doing polls, or seeking feedback on what your product is, or perhaps doing testing between different companies, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit, decisions by customers, because after all, the real use is to provide value for your customers. And to give an example, Hobby, which is the hobby company that is providing innovative ways for seniors to try new hobbies, which is a startup that I co-founded, did nearly 50 face interviews. Afterwards, we sort of had to figure out things like have a single pricing model or multiple different pricing models.
Michael, you're cutting out a bit, so I think.
You guys able?
Hi, Michael. Sorry, you were cutting out for pretty much that whole slide. So could you give that slide again, or maybe Jennifer can fill us in?
Okay. So essentially, market research is learning what your customers want, whether that be doing face-to-face interviews or running polls or seeking feedback. But the decisions a company makes should be driven by customers because, after all, your purpose is to provide value to those customers. And this applies equally to both for-profit and nonprofit businesses. So as an example, Box Hobby, which is a hobby company that provides innovative ways for seniors to try new hobbies, did nearly 50 face-to-face interviews over the summer in order to find out things like what the correct price point should be, or if we should have different revenue models or different pricing models, and things like that. So figuring out what your customers want is an important step as an entrepreneur.
All right, so after you have your idea, after you've done some market research and you have a great team, you can start the prototyping process. And at least for me, this is probably the most fun part of the entire entrepreneurial process. So this is where you actually can build your product or your service. And usually you want to do this by either using the most cost-effective and the most time-effective materials. So for example, if you're building a website, maybe you can first use Wix. That way you have a pre-made template, so it's much faster to use, but at the same time, you can do it as a free trial, so it doesn't cost any money. If you're doing some sort of hardware, maybe use Arduino. Arduino is really easy to use, it's pretty cheap and very time efficient. So you're able to get that prototype out there and you can give it to your customers and see their first initial reactions, their first interactions with your prototype and gather their feedback. So when you have that feedback, you go back, analyze it, and then be able to use it to improve your product. And you repeat the cycle over and over again. So at the end, you end up with a product that the customer actually wants. Good question.
So yeah, we have a question from Leon. He says, I was always confused about this part. If we were building some sort of little device, would we have to like rent a factory, or how would we make the device using resources? Great question, Leon.
Okay. I would say like if you're doing some sort of device that you think you can build yourself, for example, like using Arduino boards, if you have those components, you can always purchase them off Amazon. Like it doesn't cost as much, so you can make it yourself. And I guess the main part of the prototyping process is seeing how your customers will engage with this product. Like you want to see in terms of the features. You want to see like in terms of the features, whether the customer likes them, how they interact. Is your product something that they actually like? So main part is kind of gathering the feedback, but also showing like your proof of concept. So you wouldn't really have to rent a factory but if you have like connections with some people from like factories, like for example, some people from LaunchX last year, they had connections with one of the owners of a factory who was able to make some of their products, but you don't have to, you can do it yourself at home. But of course, like some of the companies, you guys will need some funding, right? So although student startups are usually pretty cheap, and funding is not really a big concern, but sometimes you do need some materials and you don't have that money yourself, or you're a very high-tech company, you need a lot of costly materials. So there's some ways that you can get funding if you need it. One way is through grants. So you can ask others for grants, and this is a very effective way to get a lot of funding, but it's also very difficult because it's hard to find someone who will be willing to give you a grant. Another way is through pitch competitions. And this is where you present your idea to a group of judges and then they give you feedback, which is great. And if you win, then you also get money from this competition. So this is great for networking, and you can learn from other presenters as well as from the mock board or the judge that is judging you. But it might not be as efficient for fundraising because you have to present every single time. You may not win. But there are a lot of student pitch competitions out there that will be willing to give you funding if they like your idea. And branding. So branding is often something that is overlooked for a lot of companies, but it's very important. So branding includes developing like brand materials such as logos, color palettes, or even like your slogan, etc. So you want to make sure that your brand accurately reflects like the goal and your mission statement of your company, and it gives your brand or your company the right feel. So for example, if I have a certain logo that's clean, like Nike, for example, they have a very clean logo. So like in terms of their customer, the customers will think their products are very clean and very efficient and simple. If you have a logo that's very colorful, then your customer will see that your company brings them happiness, for example. So it's also a very important aspect of your company. And marketing is something that is pretty difficult. It may be the most difficult part of this entire process, and also There's no right way or wrong way to do it to ensure that your customers will go to your company. Some example marketing channels include email campaigns where you would purchase emailing lists of people with certain characteristics or personalities or interests. Then you would send emails to every single one of them. Personal selling, where you directly have different contacts and then you go to them and then you sell them the product straight. Partnership with similar businesses. So for example, like Box Hobby, the subscription box like hobby company, we went to a lot of different hobby companies and asked them if they would be willing to partner with us. And we got these companies just by searching online. So this is a great way to get to widen your customer base and also get valuable connections. And then finally, demo events. So like if you go to certain events like hackathons, makeathons, etc., and then you showcase your product there, then you're widening the not customer base, but your customer awareness of your product, and people may go back and remember your product and be willing to purchase it. So figure out what works and what doesn't work. Each company has a different marketing strategy. They have different target customers. So it's quite a hard process, but it's also pretty fun.
With that said, there's also no formula for a good company, and improvisation is common and not necessarily bad. And a great example of this is Print for the Cure. When Print for the Cure was first founded, it was very time sensitive because demand for PPE was already very high. We wanted to launch as soon as possible so that we could start getting PPE out there. And so we started off with just a team of 2. We didn't really start with any market research yet. I mean, the demand for PPE was relatively obvious. It went directly from having an idea of Print for the Cure, which is a platform that unites makers in donating PPE to essential workers. We went directly from that idea to building a prototype website. And we launched our bare bones website as soon as possible and then began marketing to people so that they would start requesting for PPE. And after that, we came back for feedback and made improvements after that. So sometimes it really does make sense to change the order or to improvise. So although this is what a normal process might look like, there's always exceptions. Now, if you aren't quite ready to jump into building a company yet, which is quite understandable, summer programs might be another way to get into it. So both Jennifer and I are LaunchX alumni, and we know that summer programs are a great way to get immersed really quickly. So in these next few slides, we'll detail a couple of reputable summer programs and explain some of our tips if you want to get in.
All right, so first off is LaunchX, or previously known as MIT Launch. And this is a pretty reputable entrepreneurial summer program. Usually it's held at famous or very top ranking schools such as MIT, Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, University of Michigan. But since there's COVID right now and also last year, both last year and this year are virtual. So the acceptance rate is around 15%. And what you do is you're basically put on a team of around 4 to 5 different students, and you work together to build a startup, for-profit startup, in around 4 weeks. So LaunchX provides you with the materials, resources, the mentors, and also classes to walk you through that entire process of first thinking of the idea, then doing market research, interacting with your customers, and finally marketing and putting your product out there. So you'll meet with a lot of famous instructors and hear from a lot of guest speakers, as well as present to a mock advisory board and also your classmates. So they have a pretty well done platform for online, where in addition to like the classes, if you win a certain pitch competition, then you get a special award, and you can interact in games with your team to try to make it to the top of the leaderboard. So it's a super fun experience, although it's virtual, and we highly recommend it.
So this is just a quick video of a team from LaunchX 2020. So you can see what sorts of businesses and what sorts of things that they've been doing there. Actually, I need to share audio, 1 second. All right.
Meet Nick Gomez. Nick is a college student who wants to finally put his skills to use in the freelancing industry, but hasn't been doing well finding work. Experienced freelancers with hundreds of reviews consistently get chosen over Nick on freelancing sites. On the other side, we have Maria Patterson. She's a small business owner who's currently strapped for cash. She desperately needs someone to help her with getting her social media presence set up, but can't afford to hire a long-term worker. She needs quality short-term help at a low price.
Introducing Neptune. Neptune is a platform that connects undergraduate and graduate students to businesses for individual freelance projects. Neptune is unique because we cater to college students, a group that is consistently overlooked on websites such as freelancer.com and Upwork. Neptune will also verify their freelancers before connecting them with businesses to ensure that business owners receive a quality product. We specialize in areas such as social media marketing, financial consulting, and data analysis.
Let's take a look at how Nick will be able to use Neptune. First, he'll fill out a form on Neptune's site that asks about his skills, experience, interests, and contact information. Once we verify this information, we will conduct an online video interview with Nick because we pride ourselves on only offering businesses the best verified freelancers. Then, Neptune will search through the projects that businesses have submitted us through their own form on our site, and we will then match Nick to a project that best fits his skills and best fits Maria's needs as the business owner. Moving into Neptune's progress, we have gained significant customer interest in our venture, and we're even in the process of connecting freelancers right now. 3 businesses have provided us with a written guarantee that they will contact Neptune whenever projects become available. 5 freelancers have currently filled out our form on our site, and 2 freelancers are in the process of being matched to businesses.
Our outreach process is currently underway. We've cold emailed 200 small businesses, we've cold emailed 50 student organizations, we've cold emailed around 100 college students, and we've put up flyers at 7 different college campuses. The University of Michigan African Ross Business Club has also agreed to send our information to all of their members. We have also grown our social media presence. Neptune has created active social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We are also looking to use these accounts to not only raise awareness on Neptune, but to also monetize our own ads.
Next, let's break down Neptune's financial model. First, we charge businesses a $5 processing fee for every transaction and project, revenue from ads we run on our website, and we take a 5 to 20% cut from every freelance transaction. We estimated our growth for the next 5 years, and our revenue is projected to grow at a steady rate over the time.
Neptune provides freelancers an opportunity to find work, gain experience, and jumpstart their career. Join Neptune today to make freelancing a breeze.
In addition to LaunchX, there's also a couple of other great high school entrepreneurship summer programs, such as mntsi and LBW. mntsi stands for Management and Technology Summer Institute, and is actually hosted by University of Pennsylvania's MNT College, which stands for Management and Technology. And so at mntsi, you basically attend business classes in the morning, engineering classes in the afternoon, and the main goal is to design a real product by the end of the program. 2021 is in person and is 4 weeks long, and the program is taught by UPenn professors and is actually graded. And mntsi is known for having really top-notch attendees. And mntsi is probably a great program if you're into both technology and entrepreneurship. LBW, on the other hand, is mainly focused on just business. So LBW stands for Leadership in the Business World, and is hosted by University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business. So this program is also taught by Wharton faculty, and the main goal is to create a full-fledged business plan within the time frame of the program. LBW has about a 20% acceptance rate and also accepts many international students, like all of these programs. So mntsi and LBW might be 2 other great choices if you're into summer programs. And so this is another quick video of a demonstration of a product designed at mntsi. And we'll speed this one up a little bit. Sorry.
All right, time to go to math class. Just gotta do this and remember that, and... Mom. All right, finally get some peace and quiet. 8. You're kidding me. Leave. I'm done.
Introducing Notify One, your key to an interruption-free day. Notify One provides an easy way to let your roommates, family, or coworkers know when you're too busy to talk. Just remove it from the box and stick it near the entrance of your office, dorm room, or workspace. Use our mobile app to communicate directly with the device to indicate your availability status via a high-powered LED light and digital screen. Red means that you're busy, green that you're available, and off that you're away. When you're busy or just can't stand another interruption for the day, change your availability status with the tap of a button and watch your distractions fade away. Don't want to worry about manually changing your status? No problem. Notify One is the first indicator of its kind to sync with Zoom and other video conferencing platforms and with your calendars so that it can automatically change its status to busy during your scheduled meeting times. And when an interruption from a friend or family member just can't wait, Notify One has you covered too. Our product comes equipped with a doorbell that immediately notifies you with a mobile notification when a user presses it. It allows you to prepare so that they don't enter in those awkward moments. Notify can be used in any setting. It's a fully integrated availability indicator for your room, workspace, or dorm, all controllable with the tap of a button.
In the work-from-home era that we now live in, distractions from friends, family members, and coworkers have become ever more pressing, significantly impeding employees and students' ability to work productively and efficiently and to enjoy their free time. Notify is our integrated solution to enhancing the work-at-home experience by eliminating such distractions, maximizing productivity, and enriching personal time. Even in the post-pandemic world, we envision Notify to become ever more prevalent in office buildings, apartments, dorms, and even hotels.
You can pre-order yours today for just $29.99. Notify, the hassle-free way to eliminate distractions.
Of course, with these summer programs having been talked about, most people probably want to know how to get in. So we're going to talk a little bit about, from our experiences, what we think is most important if you want to get into these summer programs. So we think probably one of the most important parts is to excel in one area. Personally, I was very into robotics, design, and prototyping. So my role on a business team or on a startup team would have been mostly as a prototyper. But really, any skill set is valuable on a startup, whether that be engineering and prototyping, marketing, content design, or financials. All those roles have a role on a startup team, and it's really best if you excel a lot in one of those areas. Leadership and teamwork is also very important. When you're working on a startup, you're most likely going to be working on a team, especially at these programs. And so if you can show that you've been on a team, and especially if you've been a leader on a team, that can give you a huge plus. And personally, I have been on a robotics team for a long time. And during my application, I also had a leadership on my robotics team. And so I talked a lot about managing the team, organizing meetings, and trying to improve our workflow and things like that. And finally, it's quite important to demonstrate that you have the entrepreneurial spirit, to demonstrate that you are willing to go out of your comfort zone, because these summer programs will probably do that a lot, and that you embrace doing difficult things and that you have a solid work ethic. That is also very important.
And LaunchX lists some of the qualities that they're looking for when they're choosing the people who will go to their camp. But this is pretty true also for like different camps as well as just being an entrepreneur in general. So you don't just want to come up with great ideas, right? It's also about the work that you put in to see these ideas succeed. So some qualities of candidates that LaunchX is looking for is being able to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. So don't stay where you're comfortable, but constantly being challenging yourself to do better. And you care about what you do and you actually create results, whether that's in your community, your school, or even bigger. And this shows in your application and it shows in the activities that you do. You're committed, so you're passionate and you persevere. You will face a lot of obstacles when you're in this entrepreneurial process. And if you don't persevere, if you don't have the grit, then you'll give up halfway. And finally, you want to be a great team player or a great team leader. You collaborate well, and then you put the team before yourself. So they're looking for someone who can either lead the team or be a great asset to your team and be able to work well with others.
Aside from attending a summer program or just starting a company now, competitions and other extracurriculars are also slightly less intense and less free-form ways to get into entrepreneurship. So a very well-known type of competition is called a hackathon. The goal of these events is to create an invention by the end of the event. They're normally a few days long, often a weekend, and you can work with a pre-assembled team for a slight advantage, or you can even just go to the event and join one. These events often have a theme, for example, coding focused, or a med hack, which is medical focused, and you have to create an invention within that theme. And at the end of these events, you also present and pitch your idea to judges. And if they like your idea and your pitch, then you also have opportunities to win prizes and prize money. Now, these events are very heavily focused on prototyping with a little bit of pitching at the end. So if you go to these and succeed, you're able to demonstrate that you have really strong prototyping skills. And of course, you're working in an environment with hundreds of other students who also came to just build things. That's also a great way to meet other people who have similar ideas and passions as you. And we'll also show a quick video about what is hackathon. And keep in mind, this is one in the context of a college hackathon.
A hackathon is a weekend-long invention competition. Students show up on Friday or Saturday, dream up a crazy idea like a website, a mobile app, or a robot, and then bring it to life over the course of a weekend and share it with their peers.
From Germany and Spain here that I was talking to earlier, like people coming all over the world to come to these things.
We support tens of thousands of students at hundreds of universities to help them learn, build, and share brand new technology creations with the world.
It's like you always have these ideas and you know there's so much you can do. When you come to hackathon, you don't realize you can actually do it.
For me, the most inspiring part is, like the fact that sponsors are sending like the engineers to come here and talk to us, and we can learn so much from them.
We always look out for the new talent, new entrepreneurs to build new businesses so that we can really help them in that.
Hackers who attend MLH events are not the type of hackers that you hear about on the news. They're not breaking into banks or stealing your credit card. These are people who love the process of creating technology.
The energy and the passion that they have, I think we all need to pitch in and give them a wonderful experience.
Like just the amount of people that I've met through hackathons, the amount of like super cool friends I've met that are also passionate about building stuff, about just like making things and being creative.
This is my first one, jumping in deep into the pool, so yeah, I'm excited.
You come in and like oftentimes you don't know what you're doing, right? And it's just the ability to learn on the spot, to meet people who can teach you, to figure out a way of solving a problem.
Don't feel pressured to have to create something. Just go for it, because the experience in itself is definitely worth it.
And just to give a few quick examples of some of the things that have been made at hackathons, might include an app that helps schedule meal plans or schedule foods to make, or an anonymous student-to-student money loaning platform, or even something outrageous like a remote control couch. So really, hackathons are really open-ended and you can make whatever you want usually.
And actually, as a side note, you can also even host your own hackathon. So you can organize your own hackathon with your friends, especially like during the pandemic right now. It's pretty easy because you can do it all online. Okay, and so another cool business competition is Deca. So Deca is a business competition that has 4 main clusters. So marketing, hospitality and tourism, finance, and business management and administration. So in these 4 clusters, there are also 3 main types of competitions and a bunch of subcategories as well. So the 3 main types of competitions are role play events, written events, and virtual events. For role plays, it's kind of like an improv situation. So you go in and then you're given a situation. You have around 10 minutes to prepare, and then you go and present what you have to the judge. So it's kind of like a job interview where you don't know where you're going or what you're going to be given, but you try to make the best out of it, and you tell the judge everything you know. And for written events, so this one you have a long time to prepare, so you can work in a team or by yourself, and you come up with a business proposal, a marketing strategy, or some sort of business plan in the form of a 10 or 20-page report. And this report you'll share to the judge as well as give a presentation. So the judge will grade you based on this report as well as the presentation that you give at the competition. And finally, virtual events. So virtual events are like stock market games, hotel management or restaurant management, sports and entertainment marketing, etc. But they're all online, and most of them are like some sort of game where you compete with people in your California region if you're in California. So for all three of these, if you place top 4 in the role play and written event, then you will advance to ICDC, which is the international competition. And for virtual, if you get top 3, you will advance as well. And ICDC, the international competition, is super fun. You get to live in a hotel with your friends, travel the country, and it looks super impressive on your college apps.
Pitch competitions are also a pretty interesting way to get into entrepreneurship. So essentially, for pitch competitions, you'll prepare months ahead, come up with an idea, prepare a business model and a plan. And then once you attend the event, you pitch to judges. And if judges like your idea as well as your pitch, you have opportunities to win prize money. And of course, you also get valuable pitching and presenting experience and an opportunity to meet other high schoolers who are doing the same thing and see what other startups are actually doing. And just a couple of examples of different pitch competitions include the Diamond Challenge, which is a pretty big national event. There's the Quarter Zero Cup, which is actually a virtual pitching competition. And there's also plenty of miscellaneous and smaller pitching competitions that are probably local to where you are. So now that you know about what entrepreneurship is, some summer programs or competitions to get into it, we just want to leave you guys with a final word. There's no harm in trying. And really, the best way to get into entrepreneurship is just to take action. And that is the spirit of a founder. So we're going to take questions from here. So if you have any questions, feel free to say them out loud or put them in the chat. And if you want to contact Jennifer or I, our contact info is also on the screen. Emily, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about your experience at LaunchX? So like in the video, I noticed that there are a lot of people in a team. So you get to choose your own team, and how did that work, and how long did it take you to develop Boxabi?
Sure, I can talk a little bit about that. So one of the things, I guess to answer the first question, do you get to choose your own team? I think one of the surprising things is the answer is typically no. And really, I think you work best in a new environment and with new people, rather than with people that you might be friends with. So you work with complete strangers and you develop relationships and build your team from there. And I guess how Boxabi came together, we were also just 4 people, 4 high schoolers who didn't know each other originally. And we all had different ideas for different businesses, and eventually we merged them together on a single document. And then we sorted them out, things that we all liked, things that we didn't like. And eventually we came together with Boxabi. And I guess to kind of explain Boxabi, essentially it's a subscription-based hobby service that provides new hobbies monthly for seniors to try, and seniors being elderly. So that ended up being our idea. And throughout there, we conducted market research. We interviewed a lot of seniors about what their preferences were in terms of hobbies that they wanted to try, and things like that. And from there, we actually went out and made a few makeshift boxes. I had seniors try them and give us some feedback on whether they like the hobby, like the packaging, and stuff like that. And I guess that's how Boxabi came to be. So
that's awesome. So how many people have subscribed to it, and how did you continue the company after LaunchX was over?
Yeah, so currently we don't have any subscriptions yet. We're still in more of a development phase. But Boxabi, or I guess after LaunchX, LaunchX is only 6 weeks, or actually this year was 4 weeks, which is not a lot of time to build a company, of course. And most teams try to continue afterwards. So you actually have a real company and you can get ready to file for an LLC status. And of course, that takes a couple of months too. So right now we're more of in a development stage. We're working on building our backend and website to make our actual final offering. So yeah.
It's very cool. Well, I have a question for Jennifer. What do you think is the hardest part about being an entrepreneur, and what's a big challenge that you've run into while developing your companies and technologies?
Yeah, I think for me, it's a fun process. Like being able to think of the idea, it's hard because you have to constantly like improve the idea, reiterate, and really see if it's something that your customer's interested in. So that's hard. But I think the most difficult part after that is probably being able to sustain your company and keep it going. Like with all of high school schoolwork, your extracurriculars, like Michael said, it's pretty difficult to keep on going and to be able to persevere. Like once at some point you'll reach kind of like a plateau where your marketing isn't doing that well, or like you're not able to gain as many customers as you wish, but you have to be able to continue and persevere through that. I think that might be the hardest part.
How about you, Michael? Did you run into any big roadblocks when you were doing like Print for the Cure, for instance?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the things I discovered with Print for the Cure is that marketing is actually quite difficult. So with Print for the Cure, we were able to get the platform and the website up in about a month. And to actually build awareness among essential workers that such a service exists was a little bit of a hurdle in the beginning. So for about 2 weeks, we had not many requests because people didn't know about us. And eventually we were able to try different things like Instagram ads and just reaching out to hospitals and businesses. Eventually we found that specifically Instagram ads really worked pretty well for us for a period of time. And so marketing was just really trying different things and then finding the ones that worked. And then I would say on the side of the makers, Print for the Cure relies on individual makers and 3D printers to supply PPE for these essential workers. So another really difficult part was ensuring a great customer experience for the makers and 3D printers. So kind of finding out what they want and then reaching out to them and then trying to make their experience on the website good so that they'll continue printing PPE.
Awesome. So does anyone else have any more questions? Even if you have specific questions to something you're developing, I'm sure Jennifer and Michael would love to help you out. All right, if not, you can still go ahead and throw them in the chat. They can answer them afterwards. But thank you so much for coming today. We were really glad to have you here. Michael will talk about a session 2 coming up very soon.
Yeah, sure. So today, the main focus was on what is entrepreneurship and ways you can get into it. But if you're curious about what other high schoolers have done, if you want to hear some cool business ideas, that is what session 2 is for. So at session 2, 4 speakers will go into depth about our companies and what we've done. So if you're interested in any of that, we'll send out an email soon about ways you can register for that. So just stay tuned.
Great, thank you, Michael. And you can get notified about that if you go to www.weimpactcommunity.com and sign up, put your email in there, and you'll get notified when information for registration comes out. So we have a great question from James. Thank you, James. He says, when you say Instagrams work for a period of time, when did they start losing their effectiveness?
Well, actually, this is probably pretty specific to the pandemic, and it was quite interesting. I will say Instagram ads lost their effectiveness when Instagram banned pandemic-related ads. Yeah, I will say marketing, especially for the pandemic, was quite difficult because there's a lot of people who don't have good intentions and want to make a big profit off of people who are in need of PPE. So I guess, yeah, finding that one thing that works for your marketing efforts is definitely difficult, and I guess usually probably a little bit easier too.
All right, great. So we have a couple thank you messages in the chat. Well, thank you all for coming, and great job, Jennifer and Michael, for sharing your expertise with us. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's just We Impact. We have some awesome videos there, STEM-related content, environmental content, robotics, and this workshop will be uploaded to YouTube as soon as possible as well. So if you have any friends who are very interested in entrepreneurship but couldn't make it today, you can go ahead and refer them over to our YouTube channel. And while you're there, we'd really appreciate it if you subscribe as well. So with that being said, if you want to stay behind with any more questions, that's great. Thank you for coming. Stay tuned for our next workshop, and we hope you have an amazing holiday season and stay safe.